Welcome back into the mid-Norfolk farm garden here this afternoon. We've got an absolutely beautiful, warm, sunny spring day, what we've been waiting for quite a while now, and May's been so cold and disappointing today. Spent very little time sitting in the garden and just enjoying it. Things have been growing. Just look at what I'm expecting and have great expectations of about to be a beautiful display of flag iris. These have been growing here for quite a few years now. I meant last year to actually dig these up completely and replant, but never got around to it. What we did do about this time last year was take the big row of cedar Autumn Joy, which was just on the grass side of this border, and start thickening it up, and that's worked a treat. I think the volume of flowers that we've got in this area, which was the first bit we did, is going to be really good. They're looking really fantastic. Nice upright stems, plenty of flower bud forming on them, just starting to unroll, some of the very first ones. Another week or so of this weather and we'll be in full bloom here, and I'll bring you back and show you the full effect of these irises when they're doing their thing. There's plenty else to see in this garden at the moment that's really come on nicely. So let me go and show you some of the other highlights this week. Bank of azaleas we've got, always does well here. Not quite as much flower on these as in previous seasons. Foreground is a euphorbia. Behind it this lovely, really bright red one. And behind that this orange and yellow. Big areas of it this year with very little in the way of flower, but hoping this is going to get better now that we've cut big areas out of the smoke bush here. And you can see we've got a new one planted in to try and extend this colour right the way around this border. Young plant there, which I'm hoping has got good flower bud on it this year, and if that grows in and fills this gap, and we can keep the roses and the smoke bush off it. Just spotted, have you seen that little baby collared dove just sitting there? I'm not going to go too close, just fledged the nest. His mum keeps coming and feeding him actually. I did spot that earlier on, but let's move away so we don't disturb him. Generally the garden's really looking nice at this time of year. May's one of my favourite times in this garden, and this long perennial planting here with the what has been a beautiful display of bulbs earlier in the seasons now filling in with the hardy perennial herbaceous. We've got all sorts in here, including Fireglow euphorbia, that little orange one in the middle, the yellow flower that will come on and fill this beautifully later in the season. This is yellow loosestrife, a very reliable hardy perennial that really runs really nicely through this border and helps suppress the ground elder that is always fighting us in from the back. We've got quite a few Crocosmia clumps in here. Again, I think that's Lucifer, the bright orange one, because this is we think of as a hot border, if you like, following on and trying to really highlight some of those bold colours that we've got coming through at this time of year. And then this very lime green mock orange highlighting against just as it's starting to come out now. These really do cross over nicely. That red leaf coming through on that smoke bush really gives you a lovely contrast, particularly in the dappled sunlight that we've got here this afternoon. She'll spend hours in the sunshine just chasing flies. Oh well, each to their own. Now the catmint in this long planting that we've showed you as it's continued to grow and develop throughout this season. It's only a year old. This was all cuttings of Six Hills Giant, just starting to flower now. That's going to be an absolute magnet for the bees throughout the summer months. This will continue to flower now right the way through until autumn. And behind it some of the peonies are coming up really nicely. The long row of alliums that we planted in on this border really starting to give us some nice effect now. I was worried at one stage that they weren't going to do too well because there's a lot of yellowing off on the foliage, but the actual flower heads are coming very nicely into flower now, and they're forming good size heads as well. This is the long view that we designed and planted with those alliums, crossing both sides of the path. It's really hiding the lavender that's planted underneath this, but by the time the lavender comes into flower, the allium should have been completely invisible. They'll disappear down, all these green growths, if we deadhead them and don't let them seed. If we leave the flower heads on and just let the leaves dry off, then I think the lavenders will still come through, but it's a bit of an experiment to see just how that works. It's doing very nicely. The herbaceous borders generally in this new area of garden really looking very, very promising for the season ahead. I just hope we continue to get some beautiful weather like this to enjoy it all. Thanks for watching.